story, a baby called John. A baby called John, and we know that this John is John the Baptist. We're going to get started reading this. It's from the Lion Story Bible series, and we're going to see this story again as baby John enters the story of humanity. It is a story here by Penny Frank, illustrations that we see by John Hayson. So we're going to get started here and read kind of like a prelude. The Bible tells us how God sent his son Jesus to show us what God is like and to tell us how we can belong to God's kingdom. This is the story of when John the Baptist was born. Yes, he was the cousin of Jesus. God was going to use him to prepare the people to listen to Jesus. You can find the story in your Bible in Luke's Gospel, chapter 1. There was once an old man in Israel called Zechariah. We'll see right here. And so his wife's name was Elizabeth. Everyone knew Zechariah because he was a priest in the temple. Zechariah and Elizabeth often talked together about God. I like the old stories of when God spoke face to face with people like Moses and Samuel, said Zechariah. I would love to hear him speaking to me in the temple. I like the old stories of the miracles God did for Sarah and Hannah, said Elizabeth. If only he would give me a baby too. Zechariah and Elizabeth were old. Yes, and they never had any children. Yes, so just like Abraham and Sarah, right? And so one day there was a great excitement at Zechariah's home. He had been chosen out of all the priests for a special duty in the temple. Yes, to enter the Holy of Holies. And it says here, Zechariah would pray for Israel inside the temple as Elizabeth and all the other people would wait outside and pray. Yes, that was his calling here and special duty that he was able to do. And you'll start to see him right here in the presence of God, and he's so happy to be able to do this. Zechariah left all the people outside in the sunshine. He walked slowly into the cool temple. Suddenly he saw a bright light. Zechariah, he was very frightened. He was all alone. What was happening? And then an angel from God spoke to Zechariah. Don't be afraid, Zechariah. God still talks to people. And I have come to tell you that he still does miracles too. You and Elizabeth are going to have a baby. You are to call him John. When he grows up, John will be a very special man. He will tell the people to get ready for God's son. Said the angel, I must be dreaming, said Zechariah. We're much too old to have a baby. And so he's taking everything in. He's talking to the angel. He's trying to be honest here of what he thinks could be. Well, don't you know how great God is, said the angel, because you would not believe. You will not be able to speak until the baby is born. Wow. So like almost a year, right? And so you'll find out that then that I have told you the truth. Elizabeth did not know why Zechariah was taking such a long time in the temple. When at last he came out, all the people knew that something had happened because Zechariah could not speak. So it's understandable why he can't speak. There has something supernatural that has happened. Okay, but we still don't understand it all. When they got home, Zechariah had to write down what had happened so that Elizabeth could understand. They were both very excited. They started to count the weeks until the baby would be born. While they were waiting, Elizabeth had a visit from her cousin Mary. Mary was waiting for her own baby to be born. Yes, that visitation, right? Well, Mary and Elizabeth were so excited. They had not seen each other for a long time. Elizabeth told Mary how the angel had spoken to Zechariah in the temple. Mary said to Elizabeth, the angel came to me too. They were amazed that God was sending such special babies to ordinary people. Then Mary went back home to Joseph. And that's them talking to each other about how awesome and relatable their experiences are right now. And so they're sharing, they're kind of fighting. And at last the day came. Elizabeth's baby was born. He really was beautiful. All the family and friends came to see him. Can we cuddle baby Zechariah? They asked. His name is not Zechariah, said Elizabeth. His name is John. But he does love being cuddled. That's silly, the relative said. He should be called Zechariah. The first son is always called by his father's name. And so that's what they say. But we got to go with what God says his name should be. Well, then Zechariah wrote out a message for all of them to read, and it says his name is John, and it says here with capital letters, it said he wanted to make sure that he was obedient here to God's command. And as soon as he had written the message and obeyed what the angel of God had told him, Zechariah started to speak again, finally, right? This older gentleman is able to talk again and enjoy here the presence of his new baby, which he now believes. And so sometimes you might just need the silent times to draw closer to God and understand him more, be open to what he has to say, and to obedient more to his commandments, and to also be able to believe in the miracles and to speak again, to speak for God again. Well, Zechariah really enjoyed telling everyone about what had happened. They all looked again at the new baby. They nodded wisely. That is a very special baby. They said, when he grows up, John will have special work to do for God. Yes. And so that is the calling of his life. Yes. And so let's look at the author's note here. And what a great way to be reminded here that Jesus does have relatives here and understands here family and understands true family here as people that are truly in God's family have all special value and special characters here that God has created and is doing to this day. Everybody is created here by God. We have deep special value. We can't forget that, and everyone can celebrate that. All right, so there are lots of stories here from this series, and you'll start to see here. All right, so this story, specifically, a baby called John, comes from the New Testament, Luke's Gospel, chapter 1. And so long before, through the special spokesman, the Old Testament prophets, God had promised he would send a rescuer for his people, but before his work could begin, people had to be prepared. So John was sent to tell people that God's king was coming, to call them to change their ways and to do as God wanted. From before the time of John's birth, it was clear that he was to be a very special person. The next book in the series would be about the first Christmas from their series here that tells us the birth of Jesus. Yes. Wow. So this is a great event here that has happened in history because he is the guy here that prepared and did much of the preparation here for God's son's coming.